How has the solar business changed, let's say, in the past 12 to 18 months?
I would say now probably almost 70 to 80% of the projects we do involve a battery. So the market is shifting towards energy storage.
And now we have such a high attachment rate and so many battery installs that we really had to train the solar electrician on the PV crew to be able to install batteries themselves.
If you were a brand new solar company, or if you had an opportunity to advise somebody who was brand new to the solar installation business, what advice would you give to them? Where to start now?
The smarter way to go solar.
So folks, again, we're talking about how solar companies are finding success in today's environment, but I guess let's start with kind of a recap. How has the solar business changed, let's say, in the past 12 to 18 months? How have things changed today where we were, let's say, a year and a half ago? Chris, if you wouldn't mind starting out.
So I would say maybe I'm a little biased. I love batteries, I love energy storage, but luckily the market is kind of following that trend as well. Maybe 3-4 years ago, Catamount, we do have an off-grid battery-based section, but for the most part, the majority of our work was just regular commercial grid-tied residential PV systems. I would say now probably almost 70 to 80% of the projects we do involve a battery. So the market is shifting towards energy storage for a few reasons. Net metering, it still is a thing in Vermont, but it's becoming less incentivized. So energy storage couples nicely with kind of de-incentivized rates of net metering.
Absolutely. How about you, Nora?
Yeah, so working nationally with installers all over the country, everybody is seeing different challenges. Storage is huge, especially in more mature markets. What we do at ConnectDER is really simplify the process so that in our approved markets, installers could standardize with an MSA for their simple solar installations. And that's where our kind of places in the market and where our customers are seeing success.
Well, I remember when we started our business in 2016, we were just doing solar. And then it was battery storage and EV chargers and circuit level consumption and load control and now main service panels, smart main service panels. So going from offering one thing to offering 6 different things, you need to have people like Chris who know how to install and commission all of these different parts and pieces. So that's something that's really come to a head in the last 12 to 18 months is having so many different products that you really need a training center within your business so that your electricians know how to install and commission all these systems. And what we do at SunVoy is also present one unified way for homeowners to see all this energy data in one place. So that at PTO, you're not giving your homeowners 6 different apps that are all based on what the manufacturer wants you to see. So that's really one of the biggest trends I've noticed in the last 12 to 18 months.
Great. Well, we definitely see that solar with battery storage, or the marrying of solar with battery storage, is now becoming more mainstream. I was an old school battery guy for the last 12, 13 years, and it was a very, very small part of the solar community that was even doing batteries. Most of the high volume installers were frankly just focused on just getting as much glass on the roof as possible, churning through projects as fast as possible to maximize profits. When you talk about adding batteries into the mix, you are adding now significant complexity into the process, from the design, the permitting, all the way through the install, and then of course the post-install fleet maintenance. So Chris, maybe I'll kick it back over to you. Since you have a lot of experience in doing solar and battery storage systems, what are some of the things that you had to change in terms of your internal processes and procedures to handle the complexity that battery storage introduces with your solar project?
So I think luckily for us, Catamount Solar, we had a leg up in the game. We have always had an off-grid division. It was very small back in the day. We were doing 12-volt lead-acid systems. That's, again, where I got my start in solar with small lead-acid battery-based systems. So we had the leg up and kind of knew the functionality of how all of this kind of works together. But right now it's a huge part of what we do in our company, and we're just needing to train people to make sure that we have adequate skilled installers. If that knowledge resides in 1 or 2 people, that's not a sufficient business model. So spreading that knowledge throughout the company is an important part.
I can go. For us, our flagship product has been our solar adapter, which we've been deploying across the country for 10 years now. But based on market feedback, we are actually currently developing our islanding product, and we expect that to be available in the market by the beginning of 2025. So we do listen to our installers like you guys.
Great. Joe, your take on it.
Well, when we started doing batteries, we really had a battery crew. And now we have such a high attachment rate and so many battery installs that we really had to train the solar electrician on the PV crew to be able to install batteries themselves. So that dedicated battery crew was just not enough. So getting to train all of those PV technicians to be able to install batteries is a big lift. It's a lot of work. It takes many years of training in QA, QC. And of course, there are a lot of different batteries out there. So we're installing the Powerwall, the Franklin battery, we're installing the Enphase battery. We've been through V1 of Enphase and V2 of Enphase. So that's even more training. Now you bring in the load control, you bring in the smart main service panels. You need your PV crews to be able to install all of it. And that takes many years. Now, of course, you also don't want your homeowner to have to look at all these different apps too. So what we've done at SunVoy is we've brought in, to my knowledge, the first and only native Tesla integration. So the homeowner can actually see their Tesla Powerwall data within the app of the solar installer. So they don't have to log into Enphase for their solar production or Tesla for their battery data, just kind of unifying it all in one place.
Great. Well, you touched on the importance of proper training and not allowing a lot of that expertise to only reside in one person's mind, but making sure that it spreads throughout the organization. I know that's one of the problems that we had when I was in the install business. Is we had a battery crew, and we had one gentleman in particular who was on that crew. He was the expert, right? And he knew his stuff. But the problem is we didn't have everybody else trained up at that level. And of course, as you scale up, that begins to become a challenge because now you're pulling your best guy from one job to the next, and he can't focus on initiating new projects. One of the things we haven't touched on yet, of course, is how the financial conditions in our market have changed over the last year. As you all know, we're dealing with a higher interest rate environment, higher dealer fees. I'd like to ask you, Chris, how have you adjusted in your business in terms of your sales process, maybe your pricing, or how are you adjusted to today's financial environment compared to where we were 12 or 18 months ago?
I think for us, we're pretty lucky, especially in the off-grid world. Like people that live on top of a mountain that don't have access to electricity are probably going to need a backup system, regardless of what the market trends are. So I guess that's lucky for us. But yeah, things are definitely changing pretty quickly, right? So luckily, battery prices are coming down. It looks like the solar coaster of PV module prices are kind of plummeting as well. So that's been good, especially because net metering is essentially going away in Vermont as well. So like the fact that we can offer something at a lower price helps that ROI stay kind of where it had been.
Nora, your take on the current financial conditions. How have you had to adapt your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually what our business does, is standardizes the installations. And with nearly 25% of homes needing, having an undersized service or needing a main service panel upgrade, our adapters, negate that. So it keeps the overall cost down for homeowners and just allows more solar on the grid in our approved markets, of course.
Yeah, I'd say you need to get really creative with your financing methods. If you're not using a credit union today, start looking at credit unions that are offering lower interest rates relative to some of the private fintechs. Look at third-party ownership. So there's a lot of PPAs and leases out there now that you can offer to your homeowners that you might not have had to look at before, but not everybody can pay 10.99% interest or has the cash right now. So being flexible and offering a PPA or a lease is something that's necessary for just about every solar installer, in my opinion. And just differentiating yourself, having a white labeled app for your business so that your homeowners can track their projects, see all their energy data in one place, see their project documents and their photos, be able to submit service tickets and provide reviews and referrals. To me, that's what distinguishes a quality vertically integrated company from a company that's not able to weather the storm.
Makes a lot of sense, Joe. I appreciate that. One of the things that I think probably all of us can appreciate is that there are people out there, Chris, particularly in your market, there are people out there that are highly motivated to acquire solar and storage technology, whether for philosophical reasons or just for emergency preparedness reasons or whatever it is. these people are they're going to buy solar from someone, right? They just want to make sure that they're going to get it right, and they're going to get the service that they need, and that they've got that peace of mind. I know so much of our industry, especially over the past 5 years or so, has gone to this model where it's kind of a Salesforce-led model where maybe somebody wasn't even researching solar, but a salesperson approached them, convinced them that solar was a good investment, and then put a package together for them. I think what we're seeing now is returning more to a consumer-led buying process, more of a technical sale where you're selling solar, or perhaps you're selling solar with storage, with EV charging capability as well. If you were a brand new solar company, or if you had an opportunity to advise somebody who was brand new to the solar installation business, what advice would you give to them? Where to start now?
So I think Catamount's a little unique in the fact that we're a member-owned cooperative. So essentially, 95% of our employees are also owners of the company. That distinguishes us from other companies in the sense that we pride ourselves in efficient, effective, but more importantly, quality installations. The integrity of our work speaks for itself, and that, as a business model, can stand alone. Just like a quality installation is ultimately in the customer's best interest and in our industry's best interest. If we're having fly-by-night solar companies come in and do a ramshackle job, that's just a black eye in our industry, and we don't need that right now. So for us to distinguish ourselves as kind of the expert in our field, people that are highly qualified, highly trained, doing good work, that has helped us tremendously. Maybe we'll lose a customer because our price was higher than our competitor, but they'll likely come back either for service needs or another installation because we have a good track record in our community.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything Chris said. Being in the industry for as long as all of us have, we've seen companies come in and sell and not exist anymore. Service is going to be very important, as well as just training and knowing everything that you can about the industry and electrification overall, especially since homes that are getting solar are 3 times more likely to have other ads as well, like EV storage. So just stay informed, know all of the technology, and continue to train your crews.
Yeah, I would agree with Chris. The strongest companies I've ever come across are the worker-owned cooperatives, the companies that are vertical, and the companies that don't grow too quickly. So I think my advice would be, don't be afraid to grow slow, do things the right way the first time, because if you go too fast, you're going to run into issues of growth. And then have equity to the greatest extent that you can for everybody in the company. Have a sense of ownership, whether literally or figuratively, because the wisest words I ever heard in the solar industry were solar is a team sport. It requires every single person in the company to be aligned toward one mission and one trajectory. And I think staying verticalized, staying small, slow growth, and having a sense of equity for everyone in the company would be my advice.
That's excellent. Yeah, and that's consistent with what I've been seeing. And I've been meeting with installers from all over the country, particularly in California. As you all know, we haven't been directly affected by it yet here in the East Coast, but California just lost its 1-for-1 net metering. And so the companies that were out there that relied on very much that financial sale, like, hey, here's how much we're going to lower your bill by switching to solar. A lot of that doesn't really exist anymore unless you can successfully incorporate storage into the equation. But what I'm seeing is a lot of the high volume solar installers were not able to make that transition successfully. And so they've just left the market altogether, or they've gone out of business. But what I have seen is smaller regional installers that didn't grow too fast. They focused on having good reputation, good referrals and reviews within their area, and they just didn't try to be everything to everybody. Those are companies that are actually growing and gaining market share in today's environment. So Joe, maybe I'll throw this one back to you first, because I know so much of what you do is help companies get referral business, right? Which is really, I think, what we all want in the install business, is to have a reputation that attracts referral business. Why is that so important now in today's market, as we're seeing, tighter financial conditions and more increased complexity on the installs?
Well, for anyone here who's been in the solar business who tracks their cost of acquisition, you know that the cost of acquisition for a referral is about a tenth of what it is for any other lead source. So becoming a referral-based business as quickly as you can, even if it takes a few years, is the holy grail of being in the solar industry. And I think part of the reason that that cost of acquisition has been so persistently high for so long is that solar installers, when they sign somebody up for solar, that homeowner doesn't necessarily have visibility into the process. They don't know what stage their project is at. They don't know how long the project's going to take. They don't know when PTO is coming. And then when they do get to PTO, we're giving them 4 or 5 different apps from the manufacturer that have no relationship whatsoever to the installer. I've actually talked to folks at conferences like this who have solar on their home who don't remember who installed their system. They thought SMA installed their system. And I said, no, I don't think SMA installed your system. So I think that's the main reason why the cost of acquisition is so high and why referrals have become so hard to come across, because the installer has not owned that relationship. And that's what we're trying to change at SunVoy.
Chris, your take on it?
I would agree with Joe that just having a credible messenger is the best way to get across to a customer. Kind of the slimy salesman pitch doesn't always work, and specifically in Vermont, which is like a pretty tight-knit area, word of mouth and a good reputation is hands down the most important thing.
Well, I think that wraps it up then. Folks, I really appreciate you participating on this panel discussion with us, and we thank you all for spending some time this afternoon.
All right, I hope you're getting some great value from today's video content. Now, if you would like to have your business or product or technology featured on the Solar Surge channel, we can help you do that. Feel free to use the link below to set up a call with our media team so that we can discuss your marketing goals and how Solar Surge can help you get there. Solar Surge is the leading online community in the U.S. residential solar and energy storage space. And so if you would like to have your business or product or technology introduced to our audience, we can help you do that. Again, feel free to reach out to us on the link below to set up a call with our media team or email media@solarsurge.net.